Davening takeaway, Torah Ohr, daf ayin daled. On this daf, a very interesting comment and little small discussion from the Rebbe in a mimer, where it talks about the Shemona Esrei and explains that the Shemona Esrei, the Amida, is done quietly, and that quietness reflects on a very high level. And going and explaining, because these mimarim are discussing the event at Har Sinai with the giving of the Torah, and it discusses the fact that the idea of the silence of the davening is compared to the sound of the shofar that was heard at Mount Sinai at Har Sinai, and briefly discussing the shofar, where the mouthpiece is a very small constricted space and the sound comes out of a very wide space. And the Alter Rebbe explains that that small space is a space very narrow, and is from that narrowness, it says it's a place where in spiritual terms reaches so deep from the person that that place where no thought can even grasp Hashem. And there's talking about the essence of who we are, the Etzem HaNefesh, or Yechidish HaBeNefesh, and how that cries out, and that cry reaches very, very high heights. And from there, the sound that comes out is expressive of all the return blessings, the light that shines in return, that brings about all the tענוג, the pleasure, the supernal pleasure, the inspiration, chachma, etc., that we can get in response. And that it just reflects on how high this tefillah really is, and sort of compels us when we start the Shemona Esrei. It's not just reading words and saying blessings, but our heart needs to be in a place where it's, as it were, opened up and just revealing the deepest level, reaching Hashem. And from that place, then this new light will then shine down, as was mentioned in a previous takeaway. As I quoted from Yechezkel in the first chapter, that happens to be the Haftorah for Shavuos, where it talks about that light coming, and then the angels whose wings are beating normally, and those wings represent the Ratza V'Shayiv, the yearning, the rush upward, and then the return back, which is with a lot of noise. And the Alter Rebbe says in this mimer that in the davening represents the blessings before the Shema, and the Shema, where there's talks about angels and much noise and a lot of tumult, but then that leads to the Amida, which is very silent. And he explains that that when this new light comes down from the Amida, as I described just a minute ago, that light is so powerful, a new light, that the angel's wings, as it were, sort of drop down. They no longer beat and make a lot of noise, because it's such a powerful light that as it were, nullifies the effect of those. The angels, as it were, are in total awe. They're, as it were, they're sort of nullified in a sense from that new light that shines down back into this world. And the angels reflect that by the fact that their wings stop beating for that moment. And so just, again, think about what it means to be davening and up the Shemona Esrei, and what effect that can really have. Davening takeaway, Torah Ohr, daf ayin daled. There's a mention on the second half of the second side of the daf, where it quotes a pasuk from Ashrei. It says, Malchus kol elamim u'memshaltecha b'chol devader. This pasuk comes to express the different levels of how the relationship of the creation of Hashem relates back to Hashem. In the highest form, we recognize Hashem as being king. In fact, the Malchus of Hashem is the pathway by which all creation, as we understand creation, comes from. And so when we look at all the different aspects of our world around us, or the different levels of spirituality that we may sense, it's all through the lens, so to speak, of Malchus, of whatever level of Malchus that is. And so it's important to understand what that idea is in the statement in Ashrei, and it's explained by the Alter Rebbe that when we talk about malucha or malchus, the idea of kingship is a relationship by which the servants or those who serve the king are doing it willingly. There's a desire to have a relationship between the king and his people. And so when we say malchus kol elamim, that Hashem's kingship is through all the worlds, it's maybe in a broad sense we can say that all creation, as I said a moment ago, is coming from Hashem's malucha, his malchus. But specifically in the pasuk, it's also saying that all the worlds, especially the spiritual worlds, where they have an appreciation for Hashem and have this relationship in a willing way. And also true with the neshamas, the Jewish neshamas, we have a relationship with Hashem, which is a desirous one. When we want to have a relationship with Hashem, then that's called malucha. However, there are aspects of creation that Hashem made, which are part of the separateness of this world. And all those types of aspects, when they feel separate, they feel like they are amatzias, they are their own entity, and by which then there is a severing, there's a sense that they are who they are, or it is what it is, and there's not then a desire to be connected back to the source, which is Hashem. Rather, at the best, it will call Hashem the King of Kings, meaning that they feel like they have they're an independent existence. They can do what it wants, but there's still a recognition that there's something above it at some level. That's that non willing relationship, so to speak, is known as memshala, and memshala means it's against the will of those who are doing it. And at various levels, and so it's expressing Hashem's relationship with all of creation, but we have a desire to connect with Hashem as King, and with that, it's a relationship we wish to build and develop and make more as intimate as possible.